I converted to Islam in 2006, and in 2006 I walked away from Islam because I remember feeling this deep, deep sense of isolation and not understanding what was going on with me. I mean, I had found religion, and so many of my problems were supposed to be solved. I sought out the advice of a sheikh, you know, a bona fide sheikh. He studied, and I won't say where, and I won't say where I spoke to him. But I told him, I said, Sheikh, I'm so sad. What do I do? And right after yelling at someone for sleeping in the masjid, he turned to me and he said, sadness is the result of sinful action. So I said, forget this. Right? I said, you know, forget this.
Quite sincerely, and I don't think I've ever told anybody this, my first year was so tumultuous that many a prayer was missed. I'm taking on this new thing. It's a cultural identity. It becomes part of you. Because with me, I wanted to immerse myself in it. But I didn't know what I was immersing myself in. Was it a faith? Was it a culture? And the mosque provided that question for me.
Because a lot of people see people come into Islam. And there's a ceremony for that, and you know, there's a celebration. But no one's there when they're leaving, and I am. And unfortunately, I have to see them come in and I have to see them leave. And oftentimes it's not that they really leave the faith. It's not that they leave the theology. They don't say, I no longer believe in monotheism, or that I'm going to be raised to life, or that, you know, I don't believe in the prophet. They never talk about those things. They apostate from the community. They apostate from the mosque.
I mean, I cried almost every time we came home. I would go there, come home, and start crying because I was like, what have I done? What am I doing here? Yeah, it was you know, I mean, it's intimidating to join a community like embracing Islam as a minority and as a person with a vastly different religious experience growing up. I mean, it's like a whole different world.
The average mosque in America receives about 16 converts per year. If your mosque is only about 10 years old, you should be seeing about 160 converts floating around your mosque. If your mosque is 20 years old, that means you should be seeing over 300 converts with their kids. We're lucky if we see 3. And who is it that you ask that are the ones that are there, the ones that have become integrated and accepted? It's the ones dressed like Lawrence of Arabia. It's the ones that have integrated to the local culture of the mosque. The people that are a little bit more resistant, they've accepted the faith, they're firm in their faith, they believe what they need to believe, they're practicing as they need to practice. That's really not sufficient to become part and parcel of the community at large.
So, I'll probably be here for Ramadan, inshallah. Yeah, alhamdulillah. My name's Alan Santistevan. I started skateboarding when I was 12. I heard my first punk rock song when I was 12 years old, and I got my first skateboard when I was about 12. This was like a really pivotal time in the fact that my parents were sort of gone from my life at this time. So skateboarding was really the tool that brought me into this idea of what is a community, what is a family. I know that when I go to the masjid, I'm very different. You know, I know that I turn like a lot of heads. In the fact that the way that I dress and the way that I talk and things like that, you know, I come from a particular type of culture, this skateboarding, this sort of punk rock culture it's been so foreign, it's so alien to people at the masjid, you know. Because I'm not going to change, obviously, who I am. This is the way that I look, this is the way that I dress, this is the way that I conduct myself, you know. And I feel that it's 100% appropriate and in line with Islam.
We would actually go out, and this was in the days when cell phones weren't that prominent. We would go to local areas where there were payphones, And we would write with sidewalk chalk, right on the floor, free Quran with a phone number. And people started calling in, you know, and getting free Qurans, and then they would call us back and say, wow, this is amazing, I'm really thinking about what this says, and this is like changing my life, it's changing the way that I'm looking at everything. And so the numbers started coming in. And in the beginning, that's really what it was about, because I had always assumed, you know, kind of foolishly, naively, I always assumed that they were in good hands once they took Shahada. What we started seeing was that there was a high turnover on both ends. A lot would be coming in and a lot would be going out. And what we started to learn was that when we wanted these people to be safe, we had to protect them from the mosque. So we would take them to Starbucks, we would reroute. We wouldn't explain why. We didn't really want to get into all that. So we would always meet at a restaurant, meet at a library, meet in someone's basement, meet somewhere, anywhere but the mosque.
But I went to a masjid that I wanted to take Shahada at. When I got in there, I was pretty much looked at as if they were confused as to why I may have been in the masjid. And so I just told them, you know, I'm interested in taking Shahada, and they said I couldn't. It wasn't a very warm welcome.
They're not taught the fundamental things first. They're taught things like, oh, you know, grow your beard, don't wear like silver rings, or don't wear silk, and things like that. And it's just a bombardment of just don'ts, instead of like, okay, this is how we're gonna help you.
Years ago, I remember being invited to this halaqah for new Muslims, and the sister handed out a sheet of all of the wrong ways to wear hijab. And they were like, they gave them funny names, like the Mickey Mouse, if your ears are showing, and kind of poking fun and being derogatory about anyone who was not wearing it the way it should be worn, right? There's a way, and if it's not that way, then it's the wrong way, right? And I walked away from it going, what is this? I mean, why? This has nothing to do with God anyway. I mean, I just,
most masajid, I think, are not equipped to deal with the convert, because they themselves formed their organizations not as lighthouses, but as refuges.
My first Eid was actually really lonely, because I don't have family to celebrate with. My family doesn't celebrate Eid. You'd go to the masjid and you'd be in a room full of people, but you just still kind of felt by yourself. Imagine going there for like months and still like just knowing people only by faces and not even knowing their names.